Okay, I get to go last, so there's no question whether it's me or not. My name is Drew Dennert. I represent District 3. I live here in Aberdeen with my wife Ashton. I work on our family's farm and ranch just north of town. Last week we were scheduled to be here for a Cracker Barrel, and that didn't happen, and the reason for that was the weather. I know that at least the three of us were stuck in Pierre, blizzarded in. It was the first time that I've stayed in Pierre for an entire weekend during session. But at this point, after spending 2 whole weeks without coming home and dealing with a lot of complicated issues, now is the time and the part of session where you are definitely ready to be done with session. You're ready to come home and get back to your regular job, but we do have a lot of extremely important bills to get through, and we will not quit until the job gets done, until our budget is passed and every bill has been dealt with. I have 2 bills right now that are still working their way through the process. I started with 4. One of them I made the decision to table. The other one was the one that Carl briefly mentioned, that Justin Remick gave us the idea that bill was killed in its first committee hearing. And the 2 that I have left, one of them deals with campaign finance law, and it's requiring legislative and county candidates to do one more reporting under certain circumstances if there is a primary in that specific race. That bill passed the House with only 5 no votes, and then it passed the Senate unanimously, and it is now sitting on Governor Noem's desk, and I'm hoping that she'll sign that. I'm anticipating she will, but I have not heard word one way or the other. And then the other bill that I have that is working its way through the process is House Bill 1204, and that carves out an exemption for minors. If anyone under 18 has a business and they're making less than $1,000 per year, this would exempt them so that they would not be required to pay sales tax. And this idea, or the reason I brought this bill, again, was I had a young lady from near Aberdeen who had an issue. She went down to the Downtown Association Crazy Days, and she made a few sales, but it was very few, and after that she received a letter from the Department of Revenue saying that she would be required to pay sales tax. And for her it was such, the amount of money she made was so minor. It was almost nothing, and just the headache that she had to go through with that. The issue was eventually worked out, but kind of the argument that I have with this bill is that if we think something is so important that it needs to be in our code, we need to enforce the law. And in this case, the Department of Revenue is generally not looking for ways to enforce that. What happened in this situation is the Crazy Days, the Downtown Association provided a list of all the vendors to the Department of Revenue, so that's why she got this letter. But the Department of Revenue is not looking to enforce this rule, whether it's a kid selling sweet corn or a lemonade stand or a pumpkin patch. They're not looking to enforce that. So I'm saying if we're not enforcing it, we should carve out an exemption. It's a bill that encourages our young entrepreneurs to start up with a business, and I at least believe that if there's a young person out there who has a business now and makes a profit and has success, they're going to be a lot more likely to continue on with a business someday when they get older. So that bill, it passed the House, and it had its first hearing in the Senate Taxation Committee this past week, where it passed with a vote of 4-1, and it is heading to the Senate. I believe it's on the calendar for Monday. I don't know if they'll get to it on Monday or Tuesday, but that will likely be heard and voted either up or down on Monday or Tuesday. It's important to realize we do deal with a lot of really important legislation, like nursing homes and making sure that they are able to stay open, or juvenile justice. But one bill that probably isn't quite as important as that, but it still is important to some people. We had Senate Bill 100, which reduces the amount of signatures that a conservation district supervisor would need to receive to run for office from 25 to 15. And again, this probably is a little bit more minor, but in order to get 25 signatures on a piece of paper, it would come with a sheet that a legal size piece of paper which can fit up to 30. And so people were going out trying to print these off on their home computer, but most people don't have a printer that's compatible for a legal size sheet of paper. And what was happening was the very bottom of each petition was being cut off, so it was invalidating the entire petition. So we don't want people having their candidacies invalidated just on a formality. Another bill that passed the House is House Joint Resolution 1001. Right now, when there is a legislative vacancy, the governor would appoint that person. And so this one is a constitutional amendment that would go before the voters. And what it would do is it would give the power to the party central committee in each district. So if for example, I wanted to resign, that would leave the District 3 Republican Central Committee to appoint my vacancy, or if Senator Wismer did, that would leave the Democratic Central Committee in District 1. So it just brings it a little bit closer to the people. It's the people's legislature, and I think that's the way it should be. So that's a bill that, it's not my bill, but I'm a proponent of that, and I'm advocating it to pass through. Another bill that passed the House and passed its first committee hearing in the Senate was HB 1191 to legalize the growth, production, and processing of industrial hemp in South Dakota. That's a hot topic that has pretty strong support within the legislature, but the governor has not supported it, and she is doing everything she can to oppose it. So that'll be really interesting to see what happens with that specific bill going forward. I've been a strong proponent of that piece of legislation, and we'll just have to see what happens on the Senate floor and what Governor Noem decides to do if it gets to her desk. So I think my time's up, and we'll move on to questions. Thank you.